It was an ordinary Tuesday. The kettle whistled softly in the kitchen. The morning newspaper lay unopened by the door. George had lived alone for 20 years, and his days had become ritual, quiet, slow, predictable, until today. He opened the mailbox like he always did, expecting the usual: bills, advertisements, maybe a birthday card from his niece who always forgot to call. But today, something stopped him cold. A single envelope, faded, pale blue, worn around the edges as if it had been waiting for a long, long time. His name was written in handwriting he hadn't seen in 2 decades. Elegant. Slanted, Martha's handwriting. His heart skipped. Then stumbled. No. It couldn't be. He stood frozen for a long time, the envelope trembling in his hand. Back inside, he placed the envelope gently on the dining table. He circled it like it was a ghost, because in a way, it was. He sat down, took a breath, and opened it. Inside, one piece of ivory paper, thin and yellowed with time, no greeting, no date. Just one line: "Don't be afraid. The day has come, just as I said it would." George's hands went cold. He looked around the empty room, suddenly unsure if he was alone. The clock ticked louder than usual. The tea had gone cold. He reread the letter. Once, twice, 10 times. She had said something like this, hadn't she? Years ago. On a night he thought she was sleep-talking, something about 20 years later. Back then, it sounded like nonsense. Now it felt like prophecy. He turned the envelope over. The postage stamp, dated August 8, 2005. Exactly 20 years ago, the year she died. He stood up, heart pounding louder than the clock. There were questions screaming inside his head. Who sent this? Why now? And how did she know? George didn't believe in ghosts, but tonight, for the first time in his life, he wasn't so sure. George didn't sleep that night. The letter sat on the table, untouched. Its presence filled the room like a storm cloud, heavy and waiting to break. At 2:13 a.m., he finally picked it up again. He held it under the lamp, staring at the date, August 8, 2005. The day she died. He remembered everything about that day, how the rain wouldn't stop, how her hand grew colder, minute by minute, how she smiled, even in her final hour, and said, 20 years, darling. That's how long I'll wait. Back then, he thought it was just the morphine. Grief had a way of twisting words, so he buried it, along with her. But now the memory returned, clearer than ever. She had said it with certainty. Not fear, not delusion. You'll go the same way. But you won't be alone. 20 years after me. George stood and paced the living room, the shadows of night swallowing the edges of the walls. What did she mean by the same way? She had died peacefully, in their bed, holding his hand. Would it be the same for him? Or was there more to it? He walked to the mantel and stared at the framed photograph of their wedding day. Martha was laughing, her head tilted back, full of life. She always said she felt things others couldn't, that sometimes she knew things. It used to scare him. He used to joke that she was a witch. Now he wondered if she truly had been something more. He returned to the envelope, turned it over, nothing but the old postal stamp, faded and brittle. Who mailed it? Where had it been all these years? He couldn't shake the feeling that it had been waiting, just like she said, not lost, not forgotten, planned. And that meant only one thing: the countdown had begun. The morning sun spilled through the curtains, but George barely noticed. He hadn't slept. His mind was spinning like an old film reel, looping through every moment, every word Martha had ever said that now might mean more than it did then. He made himself coffee, but let it go cold again. Instead, he climbed the narrow attic stairs, a place he hadn't touched in years. Dust clung to every surface. The air was thick with old paper and older memories. He opened the old cedar trunk Martha used to call her time box. Inside, photographs, letters, postcards, a pressed flower, even an old concert ticket from the 70s. But tucked in the bottom corner, bound in faded leather, was a journal. George sat cross-legged on the attic floor. His hands trembled slightly as he turned the pages. It was her voice again, her handwriting, her thoughts. She wrote about small things, the garden, the way George snored, the sound of rain on the roof. But the further he read, the more things changed. Her entries grew stranger. Dreamed of August 8th again. The sky was too quiet. Something is coming. I don't understand it yet, but I know the shape of it. 20 years. That's what I was told in the dream. That's how long I'll need. George froze. He flipped to the final page. It was written shakily, like her hand had barely been strong enough to hold the pen. August 8th, 2025. George's journey begins. He'll find this when he's ready. He sat still for what felt like hours. The journal slipped from his lap. He realized now, this wasn't just grief talking. Martha had been trying to reach him, to guide him. She hadn't simply left him behind. She'd planned this, prepared for it, left a trail for him to follow, and maybe, just maybe, she knew what waited at the end of that trail. He stood, suddenly alert. This wasn't just about death anymore. It was about something bigger, something that reached beyond time, beyond understanding, and Martha, somehow, was still a part of it. George hadn't walked this much in years, but today, his feet moved as if they remembered something his mind had forgotten. No map, no plan, just instinct. The wind carried a strange warmth that morning, like someone was guiding him gently by the shoulders. His first stop, the old park bench by the lake, the one where Martha first told him she loved him, the one where they watched ducks and dreamed about growing old together. It hadn't changed much, only older, like him. He sat down. His bones creaked. His heart ached, and there it was, scratched faintly into the wood beneath the armrest, G+M. Here. Always. He remembered carving it with a pocket knife one summer evening. Martha had laughed, calling him a hopeless romantic, and then he noticed, tucked just beneath the bench, barely hidden by leaves, a small tin box. His fingers trembled as he opened it. Inside was a pressed daisy, her favorite flower, and a note. "You're doing beautifully. You still walk like you're in a hurry, even when you're not. Go on, love. There's more to remember." He swallowed hard. The tears came easier now. His next stop came like a whisper in the back of his mind, the corner bookstore. It had long since closed down. The windows were dusty, the inside gutted, but in the far corner of the display window, someone had left a single photograph, taped to the glass. George leaned closer. It was a picture of him, years ago, laughing in the shop aisle, Martha holding a book up to cover her face. She always hated being in photos. On the back, someone had scribbled, page 83. George blinked. He knew the reference. Their favorite book of poetry. He rushed home, flung open the old cabinet, and pulled the worn blue book from the shelf, Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet. He turned to page 83. One line had been underlined in red ink, Martha's handwriting. "Love consists in this, that two solitudes protect and touch and greet each other." And beneath it, her note, "You've been strong long enough. Let yourself rest. One more place, darling. I'll be there." He knew exactly where she meant. The hill, the one behind the chapel, the one where they once watched a meteor shower on a freezing night, wrapped in one blanket, hearts warm. The climb was slow. Every step felt heavier, not with exhaustion, but with memory. When he reached the top, the world felt quiet, sacred. Under the old willow tree, a white cloth was spread on the grass, and on it, a final envelope, no name. Just the smell of lavender, faint but familiar. He opened it, hand steady now. "You made it. Sit with me for a while. When the time comes, don't look for the end, look for the beginning." George closed his eyes. For the first time in 2 decades, he smiled without sadness, because he could feel her, right there, beside him, and in the silence, the breeze spoke his name, not with words, but with love. August 8, 2025. The date circled itself on the calendar. Though George never marked it, he woke before sunrise. The house felt lighter, not empty, quiet, like someone had just left the room a moment ago. He showered, shaved, put on the navy blue suit Martha always said made him look almost handsome. Then, he made tea 2 cups. One for him, one for her. He set them both on the table like he used to, out of habit, out of memory. The clock ticked softly. He didn't feel scared, only ready. As morning turned to afternoon, George sat in his favorite chair by the window, the one that faced the garden. The daisies had bloomed, right on time, Martha used to say. When they bloom, that's the universe reminding you I'm still around. Now they bloomed like a signal flare. He picked up her last letter again, the one that started it all. "Don't be afraid. The day has come, just as I said it would." He held it close, pressed it to his chest, and then, a whisper. Soft, clear, "George." His eyes opened. The room hadn't changed, but something had. There, standing in the hallway, where the morning light spilled in through the front door, Martha, not as he remembered her in the hospital bed, but younger, radiant, smiling in that familiar, teasing way. Her lips didn't move, but somehow, he heard her. "It's time, love." He stood. His bones didn't ache. His breath felt full. He walked toward her slowly, as if through water, and then, he wasn't in the house anymore. He was back on the hill, the willow tree above him, Martha standing beneath it. She held out her hand. "You did everything right, George. even the parts you thought you failed. He took her hand, and just like that, he was gone. The next morning, neighbors found the front door gently ajar. George sat peacefully in his chair, eyes closed. A faint smile on his face, 2 empty teacups on the table. And next to him, an envelope. This time, it wasn't addressed to George. It was for Emily, his daughter. She opened it with trembling fingers. "Don't be afraid. The day will come, just as I said it would, and when it does, I'll be waiting for you, too."